So this particular video goes back a little bit further than normal and covers time in both 3.13 and 3.14. This is also a kind of two-part I initially intended to make into one video, but there was just so much to cover, and so splitting it made more sense. I also want to preface this with a note about ship-focused videos on my channel. This isn't a ship review, nor am I qualified really to give one. This is documenting my experiences and thoughts on how a ship feels, with really only Elite Dangerous ships as a point of reference. I may not cover some important features that I am not aware of, I may use suboptimal loadouts, and I do not claim to be any kind of authority. I just wanted to get out ahead of that. That said, I always welcome any advice and suggestions in the comments below. Back when I was seeking a good combat-focused ship and had not had the best of luck with the Super Hornet, I decided to pick up the Vanguard Sentinel. This variant of the Aegis Vanguard family of ships is unique in that it is equipped with an EMP and has a more substantial armament potential than the Super Hornet, while also being more durable. And right after making the purchase, I was keen to head inside and take a look around. Sentinel is what I have. Toilet. We talking shower / bathroom area with a mirror. Cool, like it. Beds. Got a kitchen area, little kitchenette, munitions cabinet. Oh my god, I could live on this ship. Oh my god. And now I can, because now I own it. Now, as was common in 3.13, the ship's ramp immediately broke, but I was excited to head out and get into some action, even if the ship was entirely the wrong colour. I'm not a big fan of colours that aren't purple, I guess. Colours that are purple though, all day. Got all day for them. I would head back to make one last attempt to get the ramp closed, but no avail. I would also go check out the ship's turret. The turret has great visibility and offers yet more flexibility to the Sentinel, making it a great ship for flying solo or with a crewmate. But one of the features I was most curious about was the EMP. By default it is switched off, and I have found that it must be manually switched on every time you take out the ship. As I left Hurston's atmosphere though, I was very keen to charge it up and see how it worked. The EMP has a slow charge time to full strength, though can be released early for a diminished effect. And as the charge filled to full, I braced myself for what may come when unleashing this power. Now, to say my initial impression following this total lack of any firing effect whatsoever was unimpressed would be accurate, and I figured it best to take it into a fight and see if there was any effect when used on a hostile ship. Once charged, the EMP can remain so until the trigger is used again, and so can be set as an alpha strike weapon when approaching a target, though heat does very slowly build up in this state. I made my approach into the reported range of 2 kilometers and prepared to unleash the pulse. The target's reaction seemed to indicate something had happened, but again for me there was no real feedback that anything had been fired. Still, I could now go on the offensive with the Sentinel's default loadout of a size 4 gimbaled laser repeater and 4 distortion repeaters. The Sentinel was off to a great start. It delivered damage quickly and was very comfortable to fly. A little more sluggish than the medium fighters I'd grown accustomed to, but more nimble than the Cutlass. First order of business though would be replacing that default blue with a more suitable colour scheme. The cockpit is also a nice place to be. I really like the MFD design and colouring. After swapping out the gimbaled size 4 repeater for a fixed size 5 attrition, I was back on the hunt. One of the main activities I wanted a more formidable combat ship for though was player bounties. Hunting other players in the verse requires a ship that is both a great fighter but also fast at travelling between planets, as the chase can go on for some time. Here I was observing a wanted star runner trying to land at Area 18. Naturally, with a crime stat they were turned away. It took them some time to realise, but they were soon on their way up. But I found here that my loadout and inexperience led to the target escaping the atmosphere in a quantum jump. So the chase continued as they made their way to micro-attack. When a player target leaves an area covered by a comlink satellite, you lose tracking of the target until they are picked up by a comlink again. When observing a target from orbit, you can tell what they are doing based on their tracker, such as riding a train. Of course, nothing can stop them logging off for the day, and if this happens, the contract is withdrawn, and in this case it is the suspect apprehension certification that allows further PvP bounties to be pursued freely. So I was on the trail of another target, and seeing the last seen timer over Crusader, I knew they were most likely hiding at Grim Hex. Grim Hex is largely untrackable territory, but there are cameras at the ship terminals. When someone goes to collect their ship and have it moved to a hangar, they will show up as having been there, and sure enough, the target would eventually appear as they attempted to leave Grim Hex. Now, the target was taken out, but I didn't land the final killing shot. And this is a common problem with the certification bounties on players, that only the killing shot grants the certification. I felt like my weapon loadout could do with improving to deliver damage faster, and so would experiment with a few different weapon setups. Moving down to a gimbaled attrition to maybe land more shots just felt a bit weird. Having 2 lead pips was just confusing. But then Morty tipped me onto a loadout that pretty much all of our ED refugee crowd were using. A class 5 distortion scattergun and 4 laser repeaters. And this just seemed to melt targets. Distortion weapons do little physical damage but interfere with ship modules and strip shields very quickly. And the scattergun version of a weapon is extremely effective up close. And sure enough, using this loadout I was soon facing down the toughest of the NPC bounties, the Hammerhead. Everything had come together nicely, with a weapon loadout that was both effective and also ammoless. It was time to head back out to seek a player bounty for my suspect apprehension certification once again. I had tracked them to one of our corp's moons, and I was soon making the final jump close to their location. Initially I was making ground, but it quickly became apparent that they were just flying a faster ship than the Sentinel. and soon enough they had jumped. Fortunately, the Sentinel has the fuel reserves to keep up, but waiting out the timer until their location is tracked by a comlink again can feel like an eternity. You'd have guessed they were heading to Grim Hex or SPK, right? But on this occasion, they went to one of Hurston's Lagrange clouds. Closing in, I noted they were in an Anvil Hurricane and prepared to engage. As I worked my way into weapons range, I began to lock and fire missiles. No doubt they would be doing the same. The Hurricane is a more nimble ship than the Sentinel, and so giving them more threats to worry about would help me close the range. I just needed to get into scattergun range. I had taken down the target and with it certified to carry out further player bounties. This ship and loadout felt extremely formidable to me in 3.13. And then came 3.14, with the changes to ship handling, weapon damage, and crucially the implementation of the power triangle and capacitors. Would this identical loadout fare as well in 3.14? AI capabilities have also been vastly ramped up in this patch, making for considerably more fun and interesting fights. I set out to gain my ERT license against a hammerhead once again. The capacitor play now limits energy weapon rate of fire considerably. You can see the weapons listed on the right side of the HUD, along with their shot count before needing to recharge. The Class 5 scattergun in particular suffers extremely reduced rate of fire because of this, though can still be made effective. I will also be periodically charging up and releasing the EMP, as this also causes shield damage and module interference. This was definitely going to take more commitment than in 3.13. But it was about to be interrupted as the support ships finally found us. Launching missiles as they approached, it was time to break off the main target and deal with them. Against another Vanguard, the Sentinel and this loadout performed really well. These ships have had their agility reduced to better fit the heavy fighter classification, and so landing shots here was relatively straightforward. the Hurricane know, well, this would turn into a very extended battle. That thing is fast, tough, and has a very formidable turret on it.
Damn it!
I would need to lead it away from the hammerhead to engage it alone. I even switched off my distortion scattergun here to help focus on just the repeater rounds landing, and also to allow more shots per charge. And eventually the Hurricane did indeed fall, albeit after dishing out a fair amount of damage to my ship too. Back on the hammerhead, it was back to orbiting. This reminds me of fighting Thargoids in Elite, and while mistakes are unforgiving against these turrets, you can find a rhythm. With the new changes to capacitors, you also really don't want to miss shots, as the time taken for them to recharge again allows the target to regen little shields. Even at the lower rate of fire though, that scattergun is still devastating to shields, and I had worked down enough of them now to fire at the centre of the hull instead of just focusing on the very back part of it. And at last, the hammerhead had fallen. This was a really fun fight to take on and way more intense and interesting than in the previous patch. I very much enjoy the new combat mechanics and the challenge they bring, and also the sense of balance they give to ship classes, with the larger ships now feeling considerably more formidable. I have yet to fight any players in this patch outside of Ninetails, but I have no doubt that were this a player hammerhead, I would have been killed extremely quickly. But for PvE combat, I am still a big fan of the Sentinel. It isn't my favourite combat ship though, and while I had intended to cover 2 ships in this video, telling the story of my experiences with the Sentinel took a little too much time, and so in the next video we will see my favourite combat ship in the game. I would like to thank all of you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video please consider sharing it with your friends or community. Also, if anyone watching this is looking to start playing Star Citizen themselves, you can use the referral code in the description to gain an extra 5,000 credits in game when you begin. Thank you for watching guys, and we'll be back with more very soon.